Hi everyone, I'm Scott Hoke. Welcome to highlights of our coverage of the Mecum Las Vegas motorcycle auction held at the South Point Hotel and Casino. Here's another no reserve offering from Munch, 1973 TTS 1200 with a sidecar.
Automotive engine used in this, and you can see by looking at it, even the architecture.
Yeah.
Almost 1,200 cc's of four-cylinder power with Weber carburetors. It's a four-speed transmission and with the sidecar attached to it. Interesting bike.
This is a very collectible motorcycle. There's a lot of interest in this bike. See, it's already at $90,000. It's in totally original condition. It's not farkled up and restored. It's like as ridden, very low mileage motorcycle. Wow. Super collectible 1200 TTS.
Sold $100,000.
That's actually very strong for Mook. That's a good price.
And now to a 1929 Henderson. Look at this KJ Streamline that's up on the block.
What a machine. I mean, William Henderson designed his four-cylinder motor back in 1911, and this is the next to the last year. They ceased production in 1930 when the Depression happened to focus on their bicycle business, which is why we still have Schwinn bicycles today.
Well, there you go. Reserve is off, and the bike just sold for an even $100,000. BMW time. Here is a 1935 R17, a little 735cc boxer twin, guys.
Yeah, what a beauty, too. Look at the sweeping fenders on this bike, especially the front fender with those lovely lines. That was taken from an experimental prototype called the R7. It was a bike they were looking to make which had a totally different engine design. They decided it was too expensive to build, so they put the styling on this R17, which is a twin carb 750. It was the most powerful bike BMW had ever made.
Sold for an even $100,000. Well, let's go back in time on the Harley calendar to 1936, 20 years prior for an E knucklehead here.
Another stunner, Paul.
That's right, and the Model E was the lower compression version of the knucklehead. You usually see ELs, but frankly, by this date, it doesn't make any difference. I'm sure the pistons have been changed once or twice since then. But this is a beautiful restoration of a very rare first-year knucklehead, which are extremely rare. Harley-Davidson didn't even advertise, didn't even put it in their catalog that year because it was the first year with an overhead valve motor on a production road bike, and they were a little bit afraid of warranty claims, so they kind of snuck it into the line.
Oh, okay.
And they only advertised when they won an event with one of these bikes.
And they call it the knucklehead, but Paul talked about the overhead valve configuration. And there you see the tops of the cylinders somewhat resembling a knuckle.
Well, the guy in the back with Alex McLaughlin out. That gentleman right there just bought that knucklehead for $105,000. $110,000 bid on this 94 VR 1000 from Harley-Davidson.
Showtime, Paul. Showtime right here, brother.
Next generation Harley-Davidson racer after the XR 750.
So, $117,000.
$117,500. Jared Meese's 2018 Indian Scout Racer, championship-winning motorcycle.
I'm fascinated to know what the reception will be for this bike. It's such a recent racing machine, but it is the national champion, first national championship for Indian since 1953.
Paul, I talked to Kenny Tolbert, who is a mechanic for Jared back in this day and currently. He said he hated to see this bike leave at the end of the year because they did so much development work on the pieces and parts, and they all went out the door with the bike. So a lot of what they learned, however, is what they're using today, but he really wanted to see how that stuff would progress over time. So the bike that Jared will swing a leg over when we kick off in Daytona in about a month, a lot of what they were using now, they learned with this bike right here.
So would this bike still be competitive? Not that someone would race it, being so historic.
You can throw Jared Meese on anything and it'll be competitive, but yes, absolutely the bike would be competitive.
90 grand is bid.
Not quite enough.
Yep, 90,000.
Even with the man himself there.
Breaking news, actually, because this 2018 Indian Scout Racer that Jared Mees rode to the championship that year actually sold off the auction block yesterday, and it reached a grand total of $137,500. A 1912 Pierce 4 is bidding at $100,000. The reserve has not come off yet, guys, but not a bad way at all to start this telecast, is it?
Well, we're plunging right into it here with a four-cylinder Pierce. This was America's first four-cylinder motorcycle. It was actually kind of a copy of an FN4 because young Mr. Pierce, whose father was the chief engineer at the Winton Car Company, went to Belgium. He toured Europe looking for the best four-cylinder engine to copy. They brought an FN4 back and did a pretty good job improving on the engine, and this is the result. Very collectible, has that fascinating large diameter tube frame. The gasoline and the oil is held in it. Very, very rare bike.
Look at that, John. Reserve off now.
Oh, yeah.
$120,000.
So, $125,000.
Well, $125,000 just bought that 1912 Pierce 4, and now another significant motorcycle here, completely restored. 1914 Henderson 4, a guy by the name of Chris Matthews restored this one and getting a lot of eyeballs up on the concourse over the last several days.
Promised to bring big money this time. No more bargains.
Well, wear your sunglasses because this bike is restored. The Duesenberg of motorcycles. It was the dream of William Henderson, whose father owned a car company. He decided he wanted to build motorcycles. His father was an engineer. As a teenager, William Henderson would draw sketches for an ideal four-cylinder motorcycle, and his father would critique it. When he could critique it no more, they decided to build a prototype. The prototype was so good, they raised money from the family to start production. But they never made a penny.
$120 is the current bid.
$135,000.
Wow.
I was listening to you guys.
We'll move on to the Mondial now from 1957.
Mondial made 6 250 double overhead cam race machines in 57 and 58. And only one of them was built with a shaft and bevel to the cams instead of a train of gears. And the only person who raced that bike was Tarquinio Provini, who became a world champion. He did second in the world championship, very likely on this machine. This machine is original, authentic. Now, Evan Wilcox built the fairing front and rear, but the rest of the bike is completely original because it was purchased from the factory when the factory closed out in the 80s.
So, $150,000.
Wow, $150,000.
And now another significant motorcycle here. 1928 Indian Ace is up on the auction block.
This is a one-year-only motorcycle. Indian bought the Ace brand, all the tooling, the blueprints, the parts, the rights. And the first year, 27-28, they began assembling bikes. They're basically purely Ace. And the next year, they put them in an Indian chassis with Indian bodywork. So this is a very, very rare motorcycle.
Oh, my goodness. 150, 70, 80. The reserve is off at $180,000 now.
Well, you know, we should be surprised, but we have been to this auction before, and we understand the dynamic of what happens here. We're going to see a lot more affordable motorcycles, but getting off to this great start with world-class, A-list, investment-grade antique motorcycles is part of what this auction is all about, Paul.
This is a brilliant machine.
Well, the Ace sells for $200,000 even. That is a wrap for this edition of Mecum Accelerated. Thanks so much for watching.